Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Denise Albitz. I'm the Research Platform Director for Westchester Biotech Project, and I'd like to welcome all of you to today's program, and thank you very much for attending. This is our monthly ongoing series, Consortium on Translational Research in the Microbiome, and today our topic is Probiotics in Clinical Practice, Evidence and Resources. At this time, I'd like to introduce Joanne Geer. She's our Executive Director for Westchester Biotech Project. Joanne, take it away.
Thank you, Denise. Let's go to the next slide. Westchester Biotech Project was founded in 2017, really focused on the kernel concept of bringing together researchers, data scientists, and engineers. And in that process, we've been listening to our community and our collaborators to develop programs to really foster collaboration across all the different silos. Would you go to the next slide, please? I really appreciate this comment, this quote. We have a program we call Blueprint 2030. And just the idea that if you think about the time that this speech was given, and that today is tomorrow. We need to do today what we want to see tomorrow. And the more that we can help bring together the people who can make things happen, the more successful we feel. Continue, please. We just want to share that we're going to be doing our program on essential skills in the lab. It's a certificate program that's hosted by Westchester Community College in August, and we're making it available free. It's available to anyone 16 and up. It'll be a cohort of around 15 people. We're pretty well registered now, but there's still a little time if that intrigues you, and you can get full information on our website. Next, please. So I want to, I think we're just going to go on. Today we're going to hear from Dragana Skokovic-Sunjic on really wonderful development of standards of practice that she's been working on for many years. First, I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about us. Continue. The co-chairs for our consortium on translational research in the microbiome are myself, Adela Bonnier, and Keith Bostrom, who you'll be hearing from very soon. Next. And this is just a little bit of an overview of the kinds of things we work on, but tied to our Blueprint 2030 are two big ideas. One is our career consortium, which includes all kinds of great career exploration, and we have a really interesting cohort of clinical researchers who think about what to do with their careers, also postdocs and young investigators. The Lab of the Future wants to be a physical laboratory facility in Westchester. And I could go on all day about that, but I won't. I will just continue on. But if any of this intrigues you, we'd love to hear from you. We are able to do this work because of our wonderful partners. And if you think that your institution or you would like to partner with us, we'd definitely like to hear from you as well. Please continue. And just some other things coming up. Next week, we'll be having a roundtable on tomorrow's life science workforce. And actually, it's a great program. It's a woman who is at Covance/LabCorp, whose portfolio is all about working with early stage companies on the very first stages of commercialization. So Covance is a huge clinical research organization, and they realize that they need to work with very early stage companies. So this should be of interest to folks working in academic research as well as entrepreneurs. And I already talked about the certificate. We're going to take most of August off, and we're regrouping to figure out what we're going to be doing in the fall. But we have some very interesting things on the days. Continue, please. And I'm actually going to introduce Adela. I'm going to introduce Keith. Want to tell us about yourself, Keith and Ilsa, and then we'll hand it over to Adela.
Sure thing. Hi, I'm Keith Bostrom. I'm the CEO at the Institute for Life Science Entrepreneurship, one of the founders of this consortium. Ilsa, if you're not aware, is located in New Jersey, in Union County, very close to Newark Airport. We're on the campus of Kean University, and We've been in existence for, about 6 years now. Our goal and our vision is to support the entrepreneurship ecosystem in the New York, New Jersey metro area, in the Mid-Atlantic, in the life sciences by nurturing and helping entrepreneurs develop their technologies, translate them into products, and build companies. We work with scientists from academia and industry at the very early stages of applied research, maybe before real external funding. So we help with our Launchpad program is a very broad program of support for these entrepreneurs at different stages to get grant funding, identify people in the network that can help them build strategy, both in business and science, and move the company forward towards incorporation and professional investments. So we do this in the context of community outreach. We run events and programs. We're involved in this program as an example. We have an incubator in our research building here on campus. We have 11 incubator companies that are residents. We work with probably 2 or 3 dozen companies in the area and around the world in healthcare, human healthcare, drug discovery, food science, medical devices, diagnostics, really across the board. And we help them in a variety of fashions. With another 4 or 5 companies, we're pretty intimately involved in helping them build their company or their organization. We'll write grants. We have a research lab where we do research for these companies and move them forward. And then finally, we have our own research institute within the Institute for Life Science Entrepreneurship, which has its own targets and goals in research, both in microbiology and translational science. And we're very supportive of this space in the microbiome. We've been involved from fairly early days, directly scientifically with our scientists and our interests, and we want to support the translation of the science into commercial reality to the degree that we can. One of the most, I guess, relevant aspects of what we do connected to this is our role in supporting the CARB-X, which is a consortium of funding agencies that are supporting the development of products to combat the antibiotic resistance problem with bacterial infections. And we're one of several global accelerators that work with CARB-X and their invested companies to help move their projects and technologies forward. And a big component of non-traditional therapeutic approaches to this antibiotic resistance problem are microbiome approaches. So we've been pretty heavily involved both in reviewing and supporting the funding of programs in this space, and then have worked with several companies as they've advanced their technology from discovery, product formation work into preclinical and now clinical development. So we've got that connection, and it sort of fortifies a base of interest in this space that's now transforming out into the neuroscience area, as well as other areas in agriculture and so forth. So that's our background and our interest in this consortium.
If it weren't for you, Keith, it wouldn't be happening. I really appreciate that. Adela, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I am Adela Bonoiu, and I am the co-chair of Westchester Biotech project of this meeting regarding with microbiome, advancing microbiome science to clinic. And I'm really passionate about microbiome. In the other life, I'm the CEO of Catena Biologics. I run a consulting boutique in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and we help life science professional to bring an idea from take a concept from a concept to the market. And we also beta test one of our recent products regarding visualization. And if you are interested in that, we can chat more about it. But here we are here today because probiotics. Probiotics are an excellent topic, and one of our previous speakers, and probably if you go on our YouTube channel, you can see her, Regina Au. She was talking about the fact you go to a health store and there is a wall of probiotics, and you have no idea how to navigate this journey of probiotics. And from the first stage of infants, you hear about the impact of probiotics, but you have no idea how to navigate. And today we have a professional who can help us to navigate this journey. Our speaker is Dragana Skokovic-Sunjic, and she is not only a clinician, a clinical pharmacist with Hamilton Family Health team, but she is also one thing which I really, really enjoy about having Dragana today here, because she is the clinical guide to probiotic products since 2008. And she is not only for the Canadian side, but also about from US side. And that's a very important when a professional takes time from his busy work to guide the community and make us understand what is important and how do you choose a probiotic. And she also supports. She has established an alliance for education on probiotics, EAP Probio, since 2015, and this alliance helps us healthcare professionals and consumer. Sorry about that. That happens sometime. Please, Dragana, welcome and help us to understand how to navigate the probiotic journey.
Thank you, Adele. I guess I can now share my screen.
I'll just say we always appreciate hearing new voices, Adela, so thank you for that.
Me too.
So again, thank you for an amazing introduction. For the sake of time, I'm going to share my screen now. I hope you can all see my screen.
Not yet.
Okay, sorry. I have to escape and try this again. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, just need to go to full screen.
Okay, excellent. So thank you very much. I am a clinical pharmacist. I work in primary practice, but again, being a pharmacist for many, many years, I've been involved with speaking with patients and answering those questions about the roles of probiotics available for many, many years, and understanding frustration of clinicians. When we get excited about research and science and what you guys do in a lab, and then what happens then in the front line. So what happens in the pharmacies, at homes, in the clinics, what patients can actually reach for and see, and how that amazing findings in research can be translated in better patient outcomes. That's what I'd like to talk about today. Today, my objectives are lofty. I like to really describe some of the roles of healthcare professionals or HPCs, including pharmacists, physicians, dietitians, anybody that actually guides patients, and kind of how we can help them navigate this confusing probiotic milieu and offering on the market. Look at the challenges that we face in our clinical settings. We already outlined the need for precise and evidence-based recommendations and tools that we can use in the clinics that will focus on science, evidence, and strain specificity when it comes to probiotics. And specifically look at the guide that you, Adele, mentioned, Clinical Guide to Probiotic Products. It is available in Canada and the US, and how we can navigate that and use it for leverage our recommendations. Healthcare providers and probiotics. Why is this important? One of the things is that it's a fact that research in the area of microbiome, even when you look at the probiotic research, is exploding. Just looking at the simple chart from like 90s, when there was like an odd study published, to exploding, thousands of studies published yearly right now. There's no argument that research is more and more looking at microbiome and probiotics and overall health. But again, it stays still very difficult for the healthcare professionals to navigate and tailor recommendations. What I like to point, the clinical guide to probiotic products started in 2008. It was still, in infancy. The research was still not as big as it is now. So we have lots of challenges ahead of us. Along with the research, what's going up and growing, it's popular demand and consumer use of probiotics. It's staggering to see numbers of sales of probiotics in North America, let alone globally. And it's in huge numbers, and it's growing exponentially. I believe that numbers are even higher than this prediction right now, because COVID and pandemic have put some more focus on immune health, and probiotics are part of it. So I think that the numbers are even higher now. So what it means to our patients. I believe and I hope that all we do is to benefit end user and benefit human beings, patients, consumers, to improve health. So I'm going to just present a few cases from my practice. Those are not, they are real patients, but they're not real pictures. I use the stock photos for them. However, they have their permission to share their stories. Recently, we had an older lady, very nice, very active, fairly healthy, diabetic, patient type 2 diabetes. We were managing her glucose levels with the medications, oral medications. She was very happy, very active. But then her A1C, or her average sugar, went up through the roof, which was really interesting, and we were confused why it happened. So she reports to us that she has developed a sudden fecal incontinence. She could not control her bowels, and she was avoiding physical activity, not leaving home. She even stopped her medications for blood sugar, thinking this will help. If nothing was helping, she still is experiencing fecal incontinence. Upon questioning, we were thinking about referring her to gastroenterology and all the standards of practice. But we were thinking, do we recommend some probiotics to see if that would help? And then what we noticed that she said, no, I am already taking probiotics. And she reports she was taking something from the wholesale chain that is available in North America. It's some kind of unknown mixture of many different strains. And she said she doubled the dose of probiotics that her kids got for her, and she finds incontinence even worse. So we told her to stop those probiotics because that combination had no evidence published. And then we were still planning to refer her to gastro. A couple of weeks later, she called us back. She said, no, everything stopped. I'm back to normal. I'm restarting my medications. Since I stopped these probiotics, everything resolved. So this particular patient was taking wrong probiotics for no reason, and then doubled the dose, doubling the side effect of this particular combination. And she, at this point, is back to normal A1C. However, she is against taking probiotics ever in her life. She's mad with her kids recommending probiotics for no reason. And this is kind of one example at mismatching probiotics to patient needs can result in a side effects, adverse reaction, and complications. On the other hand, we have another patient, younger, typical 36-year-old. We had extensive investigation, lots of different tests and studies done with the gastroenterology team that resulted in a diagnosis of IBS, which is very common, very prevalent. And then she was referred back to us, to family practice, for management and follow-up. She was very frustrated. She said nothing works. She will continue following different kinds of recommendations by dietitian, but she was suffering. So she was insisting on more investigation, thinking that we are all wrong because nothing is working. We consulted the clinical guide, recommended different options for probiotics for her. And what happened with that is that her symptoms resolved after 4 weeks. She now takes probiotics only when needed, if she's traveling or if she has more stress at work, and she is symptom-free. So with this particular patient, we actually see that, with the proper matching of probiotic strain, we actually resolved her problem. We saved healthcare some additional cost of investigation, and again, saved patient of taking time off work and suffering with symptoms. I see that somebody is using markings. I'm not sure whether you can see these red markings on my screen, but I hope that nobody everybody can still read my slides. It's not me doing it. So who is guiding patient decisions on probiotics? I was really pleased to see this survey from a couple of years ago that physicians are highly ranked pharmacists, nutritionists, or dietitians. That means that we are still influencers. We are actually having responsibility to provide proper advice and guidance to patients when it comes to probiotic decisions. I hope this is still true. So what do influencers think? How much do we know about probiotics? This was a survey recently published looking at a cross-sectional survey of the healthcare professionals and their attitudes in understanding of probiotics. So the conclusion was that healthcare professionals do recognize there is a place for probiotics in our clinical practice, and they would recommend them more if they knew more about it, which is true for everything and everybody. Another survey showed that most of the healthcare professionals are advising patients how to use probiotics, and more than half of them would like to learn more about probiotics because they're reporting some level of knowledge but not good understanding on probiotics. So some of the learning gaps are identified because we know that in the pharmacy schools and medical schools, we do not really learn enough about microbiome, let alone how to use probiotics in clinical practice. That is changing now, but very slowly. And there's huge interest in learning more. That is undeniable. And again, with healthcare professionals, we need to have evidence-based recommendations. Not looking at the shiny labels and what the product monograph says or product label says, but we need evidence for it. And again, the feedback from healthcare professionals will always, we need something quick and easy to navigate this quickly. We don't have time when we're sitting with the patient for 7 minutes to read the studies done on probiotics. We need something quick. So looking at the resources for picking proper probiotics, situation is different everywhere. But I'm looking at the clinical situation in Canada, for example. As one example, we have a society for pediatricians in Canada. So the CPS is really popular and very active in this field. They have position statements that they update, let's say, every 7 years. We are waiting for the new one. So the using probiotics in pediatric population in Canada, we rely on this particular position statement. So what they say is that the key recommendation by the Canadian Pediatric Society is that physicians should be recommending probiotics. They have to keep in mind that probiotic effect is strain and disease specific. So not all probiotics are the same. And they are recommending probiotics to be used to prevent antibiotic-associated diarrhea, shorter duration of viral diarrhea, prevent necrotizing enterocolitis, colic, irritable bowel syndrome. What they are stopping short is telling us what strains or what products to use. So we know that not all probiotics is the same. We need to know the strain. This kind of complicated list of letters and numbers at the end of the name of the strain needs to be known. And we need to know that because the strains will not work for all different conditions or indications. just a reminder, I'm sure that most of you know this already, but the probiotics are identified by the genus, species, and strain. So for example, Bifidobacterium is genus, species is lactis, and strain is usually series of letters and numbers. This is just a made up strain. And they are different from one to another. Some of them can be very beneficial, and other strain from same species can be very harmful. So we need to know the strain. The current guidelines that we have had so far really is that most of the guidelines are lacking the strain specification. They don't talk about dose much, and they don't talk about format. And to address that, we're looking at the challenging situation. International Scientific Association for Probiotics and Prebiotic, or ISAP, which is a great group of researchers, is recommending actually clinical guide to probiotic products available in Canada and US as a resource. And in their statement, they said that these two guides are evidence-based and they are friendly to use. And you have the product listed that are backed by clinical evidence. So very quickly, I'm just going to go through the process of the guide. What is the guide? The guide exists since 2008. Initially, it was existing as a print copy only. Now it's online as well. So it is intended for the clinical practice use, and it is decision-making tool. So it's developed by the Alliance for Education on Probiotics, and we do annual update. The reason for annual update, sometimes even the mid-year update, is because the research is growing. Sometimes we have a really compelling reason to update the guide mid-year, and we would do that as a group. So the clinical guide has very specific, a very strict inclusion criteria. It has, you will see, a very limited number of products listed, because products have to be commercially available in US and Canada. They have to have either GRAS status or carry a natural product number. They have to have favorable published clinical evidence, and those studies have to be in human population with a clinically relevant outcome. And again, if the product contains multiple strains, we have to see the evidence for that particular combination, not extrapolating the evidence based on individual strains. Because again, with anything else, if you see evidence for one person doing something great, you cannot put the group of people together, expect to do the same thing as great as individual. So same with the probiotics, we cannot just do more and merrier and expect better results. We need to see the evidence. So the annual review consists of the comprehensive literature searches of all available databases. We identify studies that have identified strains and they have clinical outcomes. If the study does not state the strain, then it's not included in a review. And again, we have to have commercially available products. We quite often get excited about the new study and then realize this particular strain or combination of strains is not available in North America, so we park the study for later. And everything, any update is assessed by independent expert reviewer group. That is a group of clinicians, researchers, academics from different varieties and disciplines, and any change has to be by unanimous consensus. What we also do, it is slightly different. We actually assign indication to a product or strain, and it is based on a study outcome. Sometimes it's different than what the product label says, but this is what we believe based on a study and outcome that the product should be used for. So just a quick example, there is a product called Pregnancy Care Probiotic that has no evidence for use in pregnancy. We have it listed as IBS with a very low level of evidence. So it's really, we do not look at what the product label says, but we look at the clinical evidence. So the formats, as I mentioned, we have two editions for Canada. We have French and English for Canada. It's a 14th edition right now, and we have the US English version in 8th edition. It is available online. It's a website, interactive website, and also available as a mobile app. I will very quickly show you how it looks like. These are some of the list of indication In Canada, for example, you will see some indications are gut-related, others are brain-gut axis, some immune health. So different kinds of variety of indication listed. US actually has more indication because US has more products offering than Canada. And just looking at the example of pages from the guide, we have now 24 pages. When we started in 2008, we had only 1 page, only 9 products at the time. Products are listed in different tables. One is digestive and liver health for adults, for example, brand names in alphabetical order. You have the strains, you have dosage form, you have the indications. This is Canadian example of the digestive and liver health. We have maternal and vaginal health table separately, and then pediatric population health separately. So again, many pages, very confusing to look at very small print. So just to zoom in what those cells and Roman numerals mean. For example, you have IBD pouchitis, this inflammatory bowel disease pouchitis. Roman numeral 1 is level of recommendation. 1 is the highest level of recommendation, and a series of numbers are references. Similarly, in Canada, you have the same thing, but in Canada, on some cells, you'll see the little maple leaf logo, which means that the specific product for this matching indication has been reviewed and approved by Health Canada. So this is kind of a next level that we have as an option in Canada. Website, it's interactive. This is very briefly just to show you. I'm sure you can navigate websites easily. For example, you go to adult health, it will open up all products that are used in adult health with evidence in alphabetical order. Instead of scrolling down and looking one by one, you can actually do the search by indication. For example, let's look at the inflammatory bowel disease, ulcerative colitis. It will filter only products that have evidence for this particular indication. You'll see them listed as a brand name, and all the other information is here. If you expand on this little button here, you'll see the list of references and clinical studies. Same information is replicated on different digital platform as a mobile app. There is Canadian and US version of mobile app, also interactive. If you open the app, it will show you can search by brand name, application or indication, age, gender, or look at all probiotics. So looking at application, you make selection of the indication, let's say same indication, ulcerative colitis. Then you have option looking at adults or pediatric population. Let's say for pediatric health, you open up, it gives you the list of products, what strains it contains, and you can also expand and see list of studies for this particular strain combination for this particular population and indication. Lots of information, but easy to navigate. So I would definitely encourage you to try using the guide, see how user-friendly it is. Again, if any comments, suggestions, critique, we are open for a discussion. This is why we are growing, because we listen to the end users, listen to healthcare professionals, what their needs are, what they like, what they don't like about the guide. And we have been improving and changing over years now. So always looking for some feedback. In addition to the guide, we have identified additional learning gaps. So there are more resources that we have for physicians and also for patients that they can share. The Alliance for Education of Probiotics has a plethora of resources available, all free of charge. You can access them easily. If you go to resources, you'll see the handouts you can share with patients, navigate different kinds of information, webinars, animation, videos to see, all of them evidence-based and reviewed by our scientific advisory committee. What we are very proud of is the new addition of the education curriculum that is being used in pharmacy, medical schools, dietitian schools, open for any students, any practitioners that like to take a look and maybe do self-education, continuing medical education. The module are introduction basically to looking at human microbiota, probiotics and definitions, and again, what's happening in the real world and what is the evidence. So I definitely encourage people to check this out as well. Reasons why we are all doing this is we are here for our patient. We are here to improve health of our patient and improve outcomes, health outcomes. We should consider recommending probiotics, specifying to our patients the strain or the brand name that contains that strain for the presenting symptoms or desired outcome. There is lack of adverse symptoms if chosen appropriately. And again, we need to guide patients. If the patient is choosing appropriate probiotic, we'll save them lots of money and time and improve outcome. And again, as AProBio, as the Alliance, we are to continue this initiative to support the annual updates, to probably develop more and more programs to educate consumers, patients, educate healthcare professionals to appropriately use the probiotics in a clinical practice in life. So definitely, I think what you guys are doing and what we are doing is great, because there's lots of research, lots of exciting science, lots of potential for microbiome and for probiotics to improve health. And again, let's continue to bring these discoveries to our clinics and improve health of our populations. So with that, I'll stop sharing my screen. And now this is my contact. If you have any questions, comments, if you'd like to challenge anything I said here, I'm always welcoming anything, any dialogue, any conversation, and any suggestions to improve what we're doing. I'm always open to that. So I'll stop sharing my screen and see if there are any questions or comments. I see the chat box is getting filled, so I'm not sure if anybody wants to coordinate this.
Thanks thanks to Dragana. I'm sorry, my microphone was closed. I was talking by myself. Thank you. And there are a couple of questions. I think Richard left, and there was another question. I'm going to read from the chat first. And I also have two questions for you.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Adela, but I think Gabriella had a question that's in chat. Sure. Maybe she can begin by
she's still here.
Herself. Yeah, she's still here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, Gabriella. Say hello to us.
Hello, hi. Thank you for the presentation. I was wondering if there is a UK version of the resource. I've been using it in the UK, trying to match the probiotics whenever possible, but I'm not sure if there is a UK edition in the making. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Gabriella.
Gabriella, would you introduce yourself? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, hello. Sorry about the video. I'm just a new mom and I'm not in the best stage to be showing you a video of me. So I'm a dietitian working in a bowel hospital in the UK called St. Mark's. And we've been using the US and Canada edition, mostly the strains, because, for example, BScPhm is VSL3, and we are trying to kind of match the probiotics, but it's been really, really useful, especially for the references and the quality of the research available, the level of the research available. So it's been amazing, but we just need a UK edition.
So I agree with you, Gabriella. And again, there is lots of interest. Dr. Kevin Whelan and his group published a paper a couple of years ago stating that they would like to do something like this following our model. Again, COVID happened, so most of the kind of collaboration was on hold. So I'm hoping to renew this kind of a collaboration with the UK researchers and see what we can do in UK. As you know, we are group of enthusiasts with very low funding. So most of the things we do like around the kitchen table and, pulling friends' favors to do things for us. And my husband is our IT specialist. As you can see, our website is not very flashy. But again, he does his work for free. So I feed him occasionally. So as long as we can get some help to actually do more research to see what's available in the UK market, to review products, definitely we would be open to expand and apply this model to other regions. And there's lots of interest. UK has been very vocal about needing this reference tool done for them as well. So yes, definitely I would like to reconnect with people in UK and see how we can support them or collaborate with them to expand the guide there.
I would be more than happy to help out if you need to have more heads available because it's something I'm using and I'm very passionate about it.
Absolutely.
So please.
Absolutely. So connecting great minds is always something that, it's a first step. So let's chat more about that. Absolutely.
Great. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you.
Gabriela, you can put your email address in the chat, and we can just, you probably have already Dragana's email address, and you can connect and make things happen.
There was a question, I'm going to read it. I guess it's for the whole panel, so I'm going to read it and see if I can answer. What is the pre-allergy screening and matching tests performed for each patient before prescribing probiotics? We usually don't do that unless the patient has allergy to dairy or allergy to something that is content of the probiotic or capsule. We do not screen for allergy to probiotic strains specifically. Any comments from the panel?
Actually, I have a quick question regarding, I notice many companies which they offer testing. They have kits to test what type of microbiome you have, if you have some dysbiosis. I noticed those companies sometimes offer probiotics. I actually had a client who was asking me to help to navigate this journey. And my question is, I feel like you guys are clinicians, and you in a way you have the authority to kind of bridge this gap between the literature and the patient. And I feel me as a scientist or like as a consultant, I see only half of the story. And I'm just curious about, do you see that a lot? You have patients which have tried other things. I mean, you mentioned in what the family recommend from the first lady, but I'm just curious, do you have any other experience with people who have tried those kits, have took those probiotics, and they have got some or no improvement?
So I really want to comment on testing kits, like the at-home testing kits to test your microbiome in the gut, and then based on that, they will send you individualized probiotic. At this point, that is still not proven that will actually work, because we don't really know the baseline for each individual. We are all different. We are not aiming to make our own all gut microbiomes the same, because we each have our own fingerprint of composition in the gut, our own poop print or gut print. So testing something like a snapshot, it's going to give us good information, interesting information, but not actionable. So we don't really know what we're fixing unless we find some pathogens in it, and you need to see a specialist to actually address it. So those kits are really very expensive, very costly for patient. And I think this is a bit premature to use them to personalize approach. We need more evidence that this will actually work. So at this point, we are advising against wasting money on those kits, on those testing.
Yeah, that's a very interesting, yeah, I totally agree with you. But what do you think those companies, how can they make, because the story is about those kits, it's very complicated to identify either the species itself. There are lots of cross-contamination. I have a couple of colleagues, actually, we were discussing about, he might come one day to be a speaker here. He's working for a company, and they work in sequencing the genome and look at the microbiome of people. They don't do kits, but they are in the business to kind of create a microbiome, like an old picture of different, screen just normal individuals which have different disease. Yeah, the curiosity is, like those companies which they provide those kits, how can they bridge this?
So that's a good question. Gut microbiome testing is huge. Again, we are trying to map it, trying to figure out and understand it. It's done in a research, so it's not really. It's not in it's not ready for a prime time. It's not ready for being used in a patient at home with somebody and then interpreted differently, because there's, as I say, contamination. Sample collecting is also curious, because Dr. Martha Carlin talks about, even in her lab, that is one of the leading labs in the world about microbiome testing for the research projects. It's, even if you collect sample from different core of the stool sample, you get different results. So it's challenging, very challenging to figure out what's happening in the gut based on a stool sample testing. So it's as I say, it's very interpretation. It's challenging. It's different. Your question, how companies can do that? It's the same as in many companies selling probiotics that have no evidence. And it's not only in the probiotic field that we have challenges with the irresponsible marketing. It's in many different fields of our life and our consumer society.
And another quick question regarding about, we are so different. Our microbiome is so different from one person to another, but we also come from different backgrounds. We are coming from like culture, which they eat a certain type of food. It's all already known. People's born in tribes, they have a different microbiome than people's which are fed the Western diet. My question is, when you recommend certain probiotics, how do they work for individuals which they have a different ethnicity, if I can say like that, if they eat the same kind of traditional food?
So again, that is, I would say, next step of the research is really identifying, and some of the studies that we use are studies done in different geographic regions. And this is the best evidence we have so far. So, this is the reason why with the guide, there is a statement, that each person using the guide should probably look at the studies, individual studies, before making decision. But this will be, I would say, your best bet if you want to, use a product for IBS. This is, these are the strains that have been tested, most of them in maybe North America or Europe, some of them in India. So then this is your best evidence we have up to now. Other probiotic strains that maybe are promoted for the same indication have no evidence whatsoever. So out of this whole big chatter and noise on the market, these are few with a promise. So we cannot say these are going to work for everybody globally, but this is the best, closest to the best trial.
Thank you. And we will open to discussion from our guest. And I will ask Daria, because she has experience with the clinical part for the human clinical trials. And I think she's a good person to tell us, what do you think about probiotics, and do you have any experience with working with any clinical trials regarding with probiotics?
No, I want to thank you so much for your presentation. I came a little late and I apologize for that, but it was extremely interesting. So I am a nurse. I've worked in a variety of fields. Right now I am in clinical research. I have not been part of a probiotic study, but personally, I am fascinated by probiotics, but uneducated. So, your resources are so helpful and something I'm personally definitely going to look into. But, then I think about the patients out there and a variety of clinics. So right now, I'm working with a large population of actually gastroenterologists. And I just kind of wonder how the education begins in these clinics. Do you target more like nurse practitioners or dietitians or some other, clinic staff that would, say, be interested in doing like a monthly presentation on probiotics? Someone that definitely feels passionate about, providing this information to the patients.
Great questions. And again, being involved with this, the education for so many years, I know that companies that produce probiotics do focus on gastroenterologists, on physicians. And I think this is great, but this is the reason why they don't really get much ahead, because physicians don't have much time to speak about it, talk about it. Maybe if they're passionate about it, they will engage. But probiotics are available over the counter. They are available for self-selection. Patients are doing it, indiscriminately. So yes, the pharmacists, dietitians, nurse practitioners are probably, as I say, more frontline, they have more time, more face-to-face time with the patient. Listen, and maybe patient is more open to talk about it with the allied healthcare professionals than with physician and gastroenterologist. So we do educate everybody. We do provide different kinds of education sessions as much as we can. We do have lots of gastroenterologists that work with us as educators. So we had Dr. John Damianos do a presentation, Dr. Yvonne Quigley, Dr. David Armstrong. All of them are in resources, webinars that we did on different topics. So we have gastroenterologists that are passionate about probiotics, doing webinars. We find online is probably easy because you don't have to actually get people together, especially with the pandemic in the last couple of years. So I do encourage people to visit the website and see what offerings we have. And again, educating is a huge challenge, and we try to do as much as possible because sometimes getting tidbits of information, you might misinterpret it. And we are now in society that is doing the TikTok education. It's like the 7-second education. You get headline and you don't read the even abstract of the study, you just headlines only. So skimming and just getting, bit of exciting stuff and then not read the small print basically. So,
it actually would be interesting to get with the younger folks, using it as like a science course or, part of a science teaching lesson or something on that level. Especially on a high school level, kids really are fascinated with new things like that. And just to kind of introduce basics to them. And, I'm sure probably a lot of them have heard of probiotics, but just to kind of introduce that field to them, I think really sparks curiosity and, bringing new science to their awareness, I think is really important. So it's just a thought.
Absolutely. That's why we developed the Understanding Probiotic curriculum is actually designed for students.
Okay.
Mostly for the medical pharmacy, like the, students that are undergrads. But again, it can be used for anybody that would like to learn more about it. It's the language. It took a long time to develop it because you want to make it interesting, short, easy to understand, but also science-based, evidence-based to kind of entice curiosity to learn more after, but have a good understanding of basics. Why microbiota? What microbiome? Why is it important? All this kind of, as I said, different with everybody. Interventions, what affects it, diet, lifestyle, medication, and why we need to pay attention to it.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I think if, as we know, the online learning resources are one thing, but to really get introduced to them and then almost like on a follow-up situation to really get the feedback on, did you utilize it, how you utilize it, did you refer somebody to it, or, those kind of questions, because, I've recently been involved with a lot of, kind of feedback from patients on different clinical trials. And, it's just interesting how they perceive it differently by reading just something online, So not only just education level, but, all kinds of factors, whether they were maybe a little biased about it at first or, whatever the situation is. So I think it's interesting to get the feedback on, how that presents to everybody.
Absolutely. And, any suggestions, any ideas, you're always open to collaborate on or try to do more.
Yeah, well, thank you for the resources.
Thank you, Daria. And we will call him Vladimir Makarov. I don't know exactly, maybe I'm Vladimir, are you still here with us?
Yes, I am, and thank you for passing the microphone to me. My problem is that I was in back-to-back meetings, so I missed 100% of the talk itself. So my apologies. And so my question is actually very straightforward. Where do I find the recording? Other than that, I'm a consultant. I work for the Pastoria Alliance among my other clients. And within the Pastoria Alliance, we do have a project on microbiome that has a slightly different twist, I think. It is to brainstorm how microbiome composition may play a role in individual response to conventional small molecule drug treatments. And maybe in part explain some of the idiosyncratic responses in some patients. But it's a type of the project that is not within my project portfolio, so my knowledge about it is fairly limited. In my other consulting work, I do consult for companies in food and nutraceutical space that are looking at microbiome composition as the origin or biomarker of the disease. So, I do have a bit of a professional experience and interest in the field. But unfortunately, I cannot tell you more about those clients because it's, part of my job to keep the engagement confidential. So you eat the products every day. Let me put it this way.
Vladimir, this is Joanne, and I just want to say I'm lovely to see you, and I'm glad you're here. And you just said a number of, hello there, a number of things I'd like.
So I'm not a cat.
You're not a bot. I want to ask Dragana to respond in a moment, but I'd love for you to tell everyone what the Pastoria Alliance is. And this is one of my, when we grow up, this is the kind of thing I'd like us to be doing. You just talk about Pastoria a little, Vladimir?
Yes, of course. Pastoria is a pharmaceutical industry organization that is composed of members, and each member is a pharmaceutical company. At this moment, we have, I believe, 17 out of 20 biggest pharmaceutical companies, if you rank them by the dollar volume, right? We have 17 out of 20 top pharmaceutical companies as our members. And we also have a few hundred medium-sized, small, and startup biotechnology companies as members as well. If you are an academic, or if you're an independent researcher, in other words, you're a consultant like myself and you don't, enjoy the employment in any of the big companies, you can join on an individual basis that is completely free. The idea behind the Pastoria Alliance is to brainstorm topics of interest to all of those member organizations. And as I have just mentioned, the individual response of patients to therapies is one of such ideas that is being explored. Various data standards when it applies to safety or molecular representation or experimental description, as was done recently, are also promoted in the Pastoria Alliance. We are working on the data standards for regulatory submissions of preclinical experiments to the regulatory agencies. So things like that, things that are representing common problems and common issues for pharmaceutical businesses worldwide.
Well, thank you. So forgive me, Adela, but this just, we are very happy to see Vladimir. He's been a good friend to ours. I wanted to make sure he had a chance to say hello. And so the question I'd like to ask you, Dragana, is there do you have an opinion or any thoughts about the idea of response to small molecule drugs being affected by the microbiome?
Absolutely. This is amazing research. This is an amazing topic for research because we'll probably see more and more. Definitely this might give us some answers that will be puzzling us for a long time. One of the interesting things as well that we have observed is that you might be challenged to analyze that because patients are taking probiotics in addition to their own gut microbiome composition. There might be pollution with the different strains they are taking, again, indiscriminately. The reason for I'm saying that is that prior to COVID, in 2019, we started the project in our clinical practices, primary care here in Ontario. And we usually do reconcile the medication list with our electronic medical record. We ask about over-the-counter supplements, but we started asking very pointed questions, whether they are taking any probiotics. Patients do not report them unless you ask them, because they think that's part of diet, food, it's good for them anyway. We were so surprised to see up to 95% of primary care patients reporting to take probiotics, and upon questioning, they have no idea what kind, they have no idea why. They usually get whatever is on sale. So that was a staggering number that we have found. We were planning to publish it, but again, we stopped doing that because we're not seeing patients for a long time in the clinics. Everything was virtual, so we might restart this sometimes in future. But the fact remains that patients are taking something that might affect what you're testing, and then you have to make sure that that is also taken into account. But I do commend that effort, and I'm hoping that we'll learn more and more, because it's amazing stuff we're learning about what's happening inside our body, our gut. And as I say, it doesn't stay in the gut, it affects the rest of the body.
Yeah, in our organization, that project, I believe, is still in its infancy. So the amazing research that we want to conduct has not yet happened. But in case you're interested, you're certainly welcome, to the Pastoria Alliance, and you can actually participate in those things. And if you want to share your intellectual expertise, it's also very welcome, I believe. Once again, it's not my project, so this is, an absolutely selfless promotion. I don't benefit from it one way or another, except promoting the science.
If you have a minute, Vladimir, you can post on the chat maybe more information about the Pastoria Alliance, maybe your email address we try to build a community around, and feel free to share in the chat with everybody those informations.
I can certainly give my email address if you like.
Yes. Yeah, sure.
And the Pastoria Alliance will be, it is the work email. So pastoriaalliance.org is just is the organization. If you visit our website, most of the information will be there.
That's great. And it sounds like we should ask you to get us a speaker on that project for the 22-23 season.
If you send me, John, if you send me a reminder, I will certainly try to do so.
Thank you very much. So we'll send a note. So I'm going to just get this on Denise's list. We'll send a note. We'll copy Adela, and Dragana, let's copy you, because this is a really wonderful big network that there may be a relationship. And forgive me, Adele, I just wanted to share one other thought, is that, and we can take this up later, but one of the partners that we work with communicates with all of the physicians in the United States. And there may be an opportunity to help to spread the word about this, your guide in that sense, and your services and so on. But we've been kind of looking for something that would really, we mostly work with early stage researchers in our organization. So we love physicians, of course, and there are many physicians that are also researchers, but there's a much larger group that are not. And so we could talk about this another moment, maybe the next couple of weeks, because I think this is really could be very impactful. And the fact that you continually do a new version and so on, we may be able to help with that.
Absolutely. As Daria mentioned, there's this challenge, how to communicate this information, how to spread, because again, as I say, we do not really know about marketing, we don't have a marketing department or budget. We actually, it's word of mouth that is, doing this, and we are surprised with the numbers and with the metrics on our website and mobile apps, how many people are using it and how many people are accessing, feedback we are getting, we're pleasantly surprised, because again, it is a bit of a organic, penetration of and distribution that we, do a little bit of social media and that's it. So yeah, absolutely.
Great. Thanks, Adela.
No problem. We will hear from Richard. Hi, Richard. Welcome you back. We already answered to the question you have had posted in the chat. If you want to introduce yourself and
Sure.
if you have more other questions, you're welcome.
Well, I'd appreciate a quick recap. I'm sorry that I was away. What we're doing in Cernios is we're looking at early stage discovery all the way through development, in biotech, pharma, and device and combination products. We're especially interested in discovery tools in the microbiome space. We help companies go from early stage development, through funding, through clinical trials and NIH, to go from an early stage to the patient's bedside. So we're always interested, in early discovery and health promotion, anywhere. What my question was is how, what are some of the challenges, that you see for making probiotic, discovery and prescription, a personalized medicine task? Do you feel that, individual apothecarial, research, needs to be developed further?
So a good question. What we are actually doing is we are, I would say, doing some of the damage control or the damage prevention. So we are looking at the product offerings right now, looking at the published evidence up to now, and try to translate the evidence into practical application. So that is kind of going almost looking backwards. So sorting through what's available to find out the strains and products that actually do have scientific evidence for specific reason, and we publish that. So we tell patients and healthcare professionals, this is the strain that has been shown evidence for such and such issue or improves outcomes in this disease, and this is on your market product name, brand name, and format available. That's what we are doing right now. Going forward, we are not involved in developing products or providing idea, or we might consult on some of the products going forward. But right now we're looking actually what's available and try to match, try to sort through lots of information, make life of clinician much easier, because makes much faster recommendation if patient is asking about probiotic for, IBS, for colicky baby. The guide will actually offer answer with the supporting evidence. That's what our task is at this point.
Good. Yeah, actually, that was the meeting that I just went to, is a discovery group that does work with organizations like yours for early discovery and activity, not towards developing an asset, but, compiling, basic, research, activity and effectiveness. And we do that, at, early stage organizations like Keith does at ILSA. We, also do this at university centers in Europe, Asia, Latin America, UK, and, in Korea. So I would like to keep in touch. I've sent my information in chat. So discovery is very much, one of the facets that Cernios is involved with, and we'd like to, stay in touch with your organization.
Absolutely. Great networking. I have to apologize. I've been getting messages that I have patients already waiting in my clinic. So unless there are any burning questions right now, I'd like to log off. You have my email and my contact, and I do encourage you to visit aprobio.com website, the guide websites. Any comments, questions, ideas are welcome. And I'd like to thank everybody for joining today, and I'd like to thank you for inviting me to speak. And as you can see, I like to talk a lot. So any opportunity to chat, I definitely will jump on it. So Thank you again. And again, have a great, amazing day.
Thank you very
for
much. Go
coming.
save a life.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Dragana.
coming.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Bye now.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, my goodness. So I think we don't have to end our session right now. I want to leave it in your capable hands, Adela, to further the conversation. But when we feel that we've had enough, we can adjourn at that time. What are your thoughts, Adela? We haven't put Denise and Dylan on the spot yet. And
Yes, that's next. That's
Good question. It's probably a big, broad question, but as you know, I worked in big pharma and launched products, and one of the big things when you're discussing a new product with a physician is adverse events and drug interactions. I mean, do they currently, or maybe in the future, plan on testing probiotics along with, like, say, a big pharma drug? I just, because I'm wondering, let's say I was thinking of Dragana's, that first patient that you put up who was diabetic. She's on a diabetes medication. How do you know that this probiotic isn't going to have an adverse effect with that? And then especially knowing that, our microbiomes are different. So I know it's a big, broad question, but.
I think one thing which Dragana mentioned about the fact patients, they are sometimes not aware they are taking probiotics. Probiotics is like, something you take from a health store, and I think sometimes people they are not even aware the impact of buying them on sale. I don't think is like, if you ask me, I'm scared of probiotics. I only tried them once. Like, I'm scared because the complexity of the microbiome, and I'm introducing a strain which I don't know. Is like you bring you pick a stranger from the health store and you bring it in your home and you hope, oh, we're gonna sing Kumbaya and hold hands, right? Then you don't know what's going on. And I think I think it's always goes back who's gonna pay for those studies. Is that pharma interested to invest a lot of money? I think the story is like, for example, people take cancer drugs for a long time. Cancer is a chronic disease. And I'm curious, all those probiotics, you take them in different years, how they impact your metabolism, and how also the cancer treatment was going to impact your microbiome. I think it's a very, it's a very, very complicated, tricky, and I think with pharma is, who's going to pay for it?
That's the problem.
Who has the credit card?
Is reimbursement, and then making it very personalized. And this obviously requires, an old-fashioned, apothecary approach and personalized approach, with a great deal of follow-up as people age, as they have health problems. Since we've been locked up for 2 years, our guts have been aging more like 5, for, not exercising and not eating right. So I think that, changes, have to, influence, treatment. So this means a lifelong approach, not just some symptoms.
Well, and I clearly heard her say more than once about their process, that they're not claiming every individual, that these are the cases where there has been evidence in this IBS, right, particular places this strain has worked and has various levels of approval. So it's the classic thing of, how do you match up with what's available with the personalized medicine approach of this very individual, this very day. But I think that's an interesting point she's making about working with your pharmacist. I never would think to ask my pharmacist what I should be taking, but you know what, that may be, something to try, where they're saying that more than, 50% of pharmacists are giving advice on probiotics. So.
Adela, I'd be interested in your take about what needs to change with pharmacy and an apothecary medicine.
My opinion on that?
Adela's.
Okay.
I think the problem is in US. I don't know about Canada, because I think, and I know how the story was in Romania. When I used to go to my pharmacist, he or she will tell me what to take. I will go to my local pharmacist because I have a long relationship with that person. And after that, I go to the physician. But here in US, it's you don't have a relationship with your pharmacist. They're just merely pill dispenser peoples. And I think if you go to a practice, I think pharmacists, they should work together with people which they develop kits for microbiome, because they are on the other side of the table where they see patients, and they should work together hands by hands. Like in recent years, for example, there is a pharmacist in any hospital who runs treatment for cancer. Like one of my collaborators in the past in Buffalo, she's a pharmacist, but she works for the Roosevelt Park. She works hand in hand with clinicians, and I think that's a place where the pharmacist needs to be. I think it's a kind of a waste of their potentials to be in a pharmacy where nobody talks to them. Like we rarely talk. I mean, I don't know you guys, but I don't talk with my pharmacist. They have lost this privilege to kind of recommend, and they see lots of people coming, and they have maybe more than 5 minutes to chat with people, either at the counter. I think it's an interesting journey, right?
Well, I've seen that so many formulation programs are getting dropped, from pharmacy schools, and medicinal chemistry is becoming almost a subspecialty. It's disappearing. Physicians who want to go into medicinal chemistry or personalized medicine have to advocate for themselves. But you're right. My aunts and uncles do remember a time when the pharmacist did do personalized medicine, for each kid, in the family, because they did have to go through the diphtheria and the Spanish flu outbreaks, and had to personalize, their approach. Otherwise you could lose a whole neighborhood. So I agree that medical education and medicinal chemistry and formulation education needs to be beefed up. Even in traditional medical and pharmacy schools. What do you think?
Can we just turn for our last few minutes to just talking about things we might want to explore in the coming year. And it sounds like it might be very interesting to keep our eyes open for a pharmacist who is on the front lines and is somehow trying to, already has or is working on figuring out how to make recommendations around probiotics. I think that's sort of the next step, and that may be something that Dragana can help us with. Sounds like she's working with pharmacists, but I think we make a good point about. I hadn't thought about it before now. I hadn't thought about the importance of that role. And even though it's changing, we need those people to be doing that work if the physicians can't do it, right?
That's for sure.
So the only person we haven't heard from is Dylan. Dylan, you have any comments or questions or thoughts to share? You want to introduce yourself first?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Dylan Lasky. Right now, I'm a research associate for Westchester Biotech Project, but I'm also a rising sophomore at Northeastern University, studying bioengineering. I had a question for Dragana, but she's gone now. During her presentation, I thought when she talked about identification of bacteria and like the strain of bacteria and how important it is to the research of microbiome, I thought that was interesting. So I had a question about how specifically the strain of bacteria could affect the type of approach that researchers have to, change based on the individual and their microbiome.
I mean, I can take this question. The bacteria, that number, it's like your social security number.
Mm-hmm.
It identify that species with that film and that particular like bacteria, and you cannot replace it with another one. It's like a unique number, and it's kind of complicated sometimes because people have had recurrent infection with one bacteria which is in that family, and that will imply when you give a probiotic from the same family, you have had already an immune response to it. And sometimes it's a very tricky journey, but mainly that's very, very precise. It's like, if you want to think about is your social security number, it's very, very precise. It only describes a certain individual population of, and this research has been done only about certain population. And as far as I know, there are like clinical trials, like not clinical trials, but whatever populations have been studied, they are publishing their nationality, their what they eat, because it's very specific that strain will only work for certain population. It's a key lock mechanism. I don't know what is exactly her experience, but in my mind, those bacterial cells are very, very specific. You cannot replace them from one family to another. The majority of the time, maybe you can just lactobacillus, you can from that family, but when you go to IBS, they notice the reason is because certain bacteria, what they're important, they produce certain metabolites, and those they can influence the journey of recovery. And it's always it's kind of an interesting journey and a long process to identify those like bacteria. For example, many times they have discovered those centenarians, people which they live a lot, because they eat certain type of yogurts, and they try to look what is inside of that yogurt, and they try to take that bacteria and give it to somebody else, but it didn't work the same way like it will work on that population. And you know, another thing which is interesting, microbiome is transmitted through the maternal side.
Right.
Through you get a microbiome from your mom,
Yeah.
and that's a very interesting because in a way we have a certain journey how our microbiome evolves.
Interesting. Thank you. Yeah.
There's some really wonderful researchers. If this is an area that you get intrigued with, Dylan, there's some really wonderful researchers in Boston working in this area that some who we've had do presentations for us in the past that are practicing physicians that have focused in the ones that have gotten to know are more focused specifically on that mother to baby transfer. And these are folks that sort of 10 years ago were publishing papers because before that was believed that a baby was born without a microbiome. Right? And, you know, it was a profound discovery that, no, that's not really true. So that's great. Anybody have any other?
And maybe I should finish the conversation regarding what we discussed before about the fact our microbiome makes us more social.
Oh, I love that. Talk about that. That's great.
And I think for me, it doesn't come as a surprise. It's just a surprise because sometimes you don't acknowledge the elephant in the room. Have you ever been to a party and you see the most successful person there and you think, wow, he's very social, but you never thought he has a good microbiome. And at the end of the day, if we think about we are only 10% human, let's not get ahead of ourselves, right? Because we are only 10% human, then the bacteria, they choose their social life too. So apparently we choose our partners according to our social life, our microbiome. And that kind of spoiled idea, you know, you fall in love with compatibility, you just microbiome compatible, you know. And that's a kind of interesting, I think, just like thought from home, I would say.
I love that. Well, you know, that's if there's a paper on that subject, I think that would be a fun one to put in our resource. We've been trying to sort of collect some connections to share on our website. If you could send that link to us, to Denise and myself, and if you come across the paper.
Yeah, I have a couple of papers because I thought it's a very interesting subject.
It's a great idea.
They actually study the microbiome of couples which are in love for a long time compared with others which they don't, and they look certain bacteria, they were more developed than others, and as we age, we lose certain bacterial development, and it changes with a different stage of life. And I think it's very interesting. And the kids, as we have kids, the microbiome, they bring also certain microbes, and sometimes our microbes are producing antibodies, and they are producing antibiotics, and that is also very important because we have our own microbes which they help us keep us healthy because they produce antibiotics.
Well, I'm seeing a program in February on the microbiome and love.
That's
Alrighty, I'll put a star on that.
I
Let's
love
get that one on
the
the
way
calendar. I like that idea.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good.
Denise,
You
we
can
heard you.
can make
sorry.
it like a dating app.
You have to do a test, right?
Yeah.
Your microbiome.
Opportunities for spam.
You're compatible.
Denise, we've heard your voice a little bit, but I just want to give you a chance if you had any further comments or questions. And I know Richard has his hand up. So did you have anything, Denise? Richard, what are you thinking? Great. What are you thinking about, Richard?
Well, I just wanted to, and thanks to this group, we're also doing some exciting, initiatives, in STEM education for laboratories. We're also working with a new group called Beyond the PhD to help, postdocs find options to make a transition from pure academia into industry, into government service, and we're looking forward speakers that are open to talking about their journey from beyond the PhD. We're hoping to get some combination virtual and in-person live events for training. So stay tuned to this space. Contact Denise, Joanne, myself, or Carla Romney, to look for more interesting collaborations as we continue to expand our reach, in STEM education from high school all the way through postdoc and into research.
Thank you for that, Richard. I appreciate that. All right, we have one more minute. Would you like to make final comments and bring us home, Adela?
Thanks for coming today. And next time when you see people around, think about what did they have, what microbes make them special? Because before we always wonder what makes us special, what quality. But you never think, if you see somebody very sociable, what is your microbe secret?